Thank you.
Good evening.
Evening.
Mayor, council. Thanks for the opportunity to be here. Do you have a council meeting tonight?
Sure do.
Holy
Yes.
cow. I'll be quick. I can't, if you'll let me. But anyway, I'm delighted to be here to talk to you just a little bit about the DeKalb Municipal Association, of which you are not a member. But we appreciate the opportunity to be here. I want to tell you just briefly about my history a little bit. I was elected to the Decatur City Commission in 1991. I served as mayor from 98 through 2013. I was active in the Georgia Municipal Association, served as president of that organization in 2008, somewhere around there. Served on the ARC board for a number of years, helped with MAMA, and then my last claim to fame was the T-Splosh, if you all remember that. Served on that 21-member board and that executive committee, which is a year of my life I'll never get back. So anyway, now the DMA, and I do serve as managing director of the DeKalb Municipal Association. I'm
Bennett,
sorry.
can you turn off your, Bennett, can you?
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
I thought somebody was speaking. I talk over people all the time, so that won't bother me. But I do serve as managing director. It is a paid organization. Now, it has not always been that way. And we made the decision probably about 6 years ago for it to become a paid organization when we realized that there were a lot of decisions being made by DeKalb County that were not necessarily in the public, not necessarily private or in violation of anything, but they were made out of the sight of the public and that were having tremendous effect on the cities in DeKalb County for which we were never aware of. And so we made the decision at that time to employ somebody as an organization to watch the county is basically what it amounted to. And it has turned out pretty well. The first managing director we had was Mark Baggett, and Mark was an employee of the Georgia Municipal Association, and he served for about 2 years, and he has since gone back to that organization as a human resources, I think. I got the job, this part of the job, in late 2014. So, and the circumstances under which I work there is that the DeKalb Municipal Association has an agreement with the Georgia Municipal Association to provide a person to serve as the managing director. The Georgia Municipal Association has an agreement with an organization I work with called Pendleton Consulting to provide a person for them to do that. That person then is me. The budget of the DeKalb Municipal Association is about $122,000 a year, and that revenue comes from the cities who pay $1 per person per year. Our costs are about $110,000 a year is what that amounts to. Of that, the director's fee, which goes to Pendleton technically, is $65,000. Monthly meetings and committee meetings and stuff are about $12,000. Travel time is about $4,000, and out of that, the majority of that is that our president of our organization, who this year is the mayor of Lithonia, goes on the link strip. They allow us a position on there, so that pays for her to go, in this case, for her to go on that link strip. And then we pay GMA $25,000 a year, and that is for access to, they provide a person who helps me do stuff. So, and also that helps us, it allows us access to GMA to help us deal with local issues that we're dealing with. GMA is a statewide organization, and they lobby based on the needs of cities all over the state, not particularly what DeKalb County may or may not need. So they're not going to lobby for us to do anything in particular unless it is a statewide thing. But what they do is provide us with assistance in that. A good example of that is, if you remember the soccer situation at the county, well, the county made several assumptions in there that we thought were erroneous, and we made use of the Georgia Municipal Association legal staff, Sam Brannon, to help us figure that out, and in which we protested several of those decisions. Just so you know exactly what I'm talking about there, they paid for parks and recreation. There's a special service district called Parks and Recreation, which you all do your own parks and recreation, as do most cities in DeKalb County. Well, they use money out of the general fund, which we all pay, to relocate their parks and recreation department and pay the rent on this, which we thought that was wrong. And they also did that with roads and drainage, which is another special service tax too. So we felt like they were using all our tax money to do a specific economic development project for the county. So that's kind of why that happened there. The difference today between now and the pre-payment days are, one, we are being heard now. The cities are being heard, and it's become beneficial to us because now when they're doing something, I'll give you an example, is that we worked long and hard to divide up in these 5 special service districts that we can opt in or out. And roads and drainage is one, parks and rec is one, police basic, police advanced is another, and there's one more I can't think of right now, but whether you opt in or out. And you opt in at a specific millage rate. County says, if you want to in on it, park, roads and drainage is 5 mills. If you don't, it's 5 mills. So you can take it or leave it, do it yourself, and do that. So we opted in on the fire is the other one. So everybody in the county opted in on fire at 2 mills. Well, they figured out after a while they started shifting money around in the budgets. And so everybody's fire millage all of a sudden went to about 4, double what it was. And the only way we knew about it, I happened to have been mayor in Decatur then, the only way we knew about it was in a Dunwoody blog somewhere. It showed up in a Dunwoody blog. And the beneficial was that Decatur at the time happened to be the only city in DeKalb County that had its own fire department. So our millage rate actually went down where everybody else's went up. And I think when they realized that, they changed it back, but the next year. But we are being heard. The other thing I think it's helping the people in DeKalb County realize that the cities do kind of get along. And I think we, for the most part, we don't always agree on everything, but we, for the most part, are civil in our conversations with people. We talk to people, other cities, about issues that we deal with, and so it becomes very beneficial to us to have that advantage, to have if you will, to have a place where we can come and discuss issues that are common to us all. We are beginning to speak with one voice on most issues, and that's helpful, especially on issues. House Bill 711 is a good example. Right now, the DeKalb Municipal Association has taken a position. That's the bill that Representative Oliver has presented, which will tax you all for pension, to help DeKalb County pay the pension. Well, we're opposed to that for a lot of different reasons, but one is that if they're successful in being able to do you for that, they would immediately begin doing the same thing for any kind of annexation that might happen, so it affects us all. But we have taken a position on that. We are having there, and I'll give you this, the main things that we are dealing with right now is you're aware that the county has made their intention known to put on the ballot in November the SPLOST, which is a 1-cent sales tax, which will replace the money that we get from host. You all get a good chunk of that host money, and this is made to replace that money. So the other is we're in the middle of the service delivery strategy negotiations right now, and that is what we have to do every 5 years, 6 years, something like that, where we come together and sort out the service delivery strategy, if you will. And now one of the things that we're dealing with here is this whole shifting money around in the budget and how that's done, how they have used that in the past to shift these around. So we are involved in discussions with them about the county. We began discussions about a joint public works program where we could advertise paving and traffic lights and stuff like that as a group for different rates about patching pavements or doing asphalt or milling roads or stuff like that. We are beginning to discuss, we have a policy board which is made up of the mayors of the cities in DeKalb County, and they discuss different policy issues and whether the DeKalb Municipal Association needs to take a position on things like that. And we are beginning part of the budget process now for the county, which is a big step in the fact that their budget department now lets us know when they're doing something that affects the cities, what the cities are paying. So that's been some of the biggest changes. So I'll be glad to answer any questions. That's a brief overview of what we do. We would love to have you join us. I think we all know, and I'll make my little philosophical comment here at the end, that DeKalb County is in trouble. I mean, they got some serious issues going on. And when I talk to people about DeKalb County, you know, you look around, there are a lot of good things going on in DeKalb County, but they're all happening in the cities. And there's a reason for that, quite honestly. And the things that I see that are going on in Brookhaven and Dunwoody too, probably would not be happening. I would make a pretty good argument they wouldn't be happening if you all were not cities now. And I think one of the ways that we're going to get out of this mess in DeKalb County is for cities to step up and take a little broader and a little more strong impact on what's said and done in this county and have a say in what is done. And I hope we are beginning to do that. DeKalb County has a lot of, we had a meeting this morning with one of the CEO candidates, Michael Thurman, where he discussed the assets that DeKalb County has and how we use that as leverage against fixing our problems. And most of the things that he mentioned are things that are in cities. So anyway, if there are any questions, I'll be glad to answer them.
Lindley?
Thank you for presenting to us, Mr. Floyd. If I understand you correctly, the current annual budget is $122,000 a year. Last time Brookhaven was approached about membership, it was my understanding that that it would cost Brookhaven $50,000 to join. Is that still the case?
That's $1 per person. That's
okay,
exactly
so give or
right.
take. And so Brookhaven would be one of the one or two largest contributors to the
I think
organization?
it'd be the largest.
Largest.
Tucker, is Tucker smaller? Tucker is,
Yeah,
they're going
Yes.
to join. I expect them to join, but they may be a little larger. And I'm not sure we've done, what, 40?
They're just 49, maybe they're 50 now.
Yeah.
So they're the biggest
They're the
contributor
biggest,
to
participant.
DMA, right?
Yeah. So,
So I have a question. You know, I'll start off by saying, look, I love the concept of working together as municipalities to try and address our common problems. But there are some realities that we, as cities, don't always see eye to eye, and so we have to, DMA, I think the objective is to find those commonalities that we can work on together, and that's great to hear that that's the focus. Early in our first year of membership in DMA, we actually had a big education initiative push and said, look, we'd like to support Tom Taylor's bill for the creation of new city school systems, and DMA refused to support that because we had some cities like Decatur that has its own school system. Maybe that's in some ways that is a competitive advantage as a city. And for one reason or another, DMA didn't support it. And I saw that there certainly is one area of conflict between cities. Some would agree that that's a good thing for a city to get into, and others would say, no, we're not supportive of that legislative action. And it was really just to create a letter of support for Tom Taylor's bill. So it's a state legislative action, similar to what you are working with Mary Margaret Oliver, and that you want to have a unified front in a position statement with the cities to combat her bill, or at least to have a position from the city standpoint for the bill. So if we can find commonalities, I'm all in support of finding ways to do that. But then it comes to the question of, so what is the value proposition for the city? And one of the arguments that we had when we were creating the city is, are we duplicating services? And as you mentioned, DMA is providing, or paying that $25,000 to GMA for all the back office services that they provide. Well, we already pay as a city that GMA services for some of those things. So I would contend that there are some duplications there. I think they're needed for DMA, but it's a $50,000 expense to the city of Brookhaven, and I have to be able to answer to the citizens of saying, look, well, is DMA the best priority for that $50,000 spend, or if it's something that we just need legislative action at the state or with the county, is a lobbyist a better use of that money to actually go and lobby just for the benefit of the Brookhaven citizens or issues? I'm not saying that there isn't a greater good in being a team player with these things, but I just have to answer to those citizens about how do we address that question when it comes up from citizens.
Well, I mean, I think probably the essence of it here is that, first of all, I mean, we're paying $1 a person, so it's the same. Everybody's paying. Every individual is paying the same thing. So, but we've never undertaken deciding about whether to. We've never really had votes on whether you support an issue or not. I'm not familiar with. I'm not sure when that was done. I may have been mayor in Decatur, and as a city that has a school system, I mean, I can tell you right now, it is an incredible blessing, but it's also a curse. And
right.
I can tell you that you want to be careful. If you want to get into that swimming pool, be careful, buddy, because it'll drown you if you're not careful. And I would say to anybody that wanted support to create their own school system, I would say yes. Anybody ought to be allowed to do that. And I don't think there's any question about that. The DeKalb County school system takes the same attitude they do about anything in the county, is that they don't want anybody taking any kind of political control away from how they do that, and they do that in numbers. I can't tell you that the DeKalb Municipal Association can provide you something that you can't provide yourself. Brookhaven has tremendous assets and resources, more than any other city in DeKalb County. So if Brookhaven, if the DeKalb Municipal Association fails tomorrow, and Dunwoody pulls out and the system goes away, will Brookhaven and Dunwoody be okay? And Chamblee, yeah, you'll be fine. I mean, you got resources and stuff like that to do you. Will the rest of the cities, and I would include Decatur in the smaller cities, who really don't have the resources that it takes to put together to deal with DeKalb County? And I base that on my relationship with DeKalb County from 1991 through 2006 or whenever we started this. Mm-hmm. I mean, they would not so much as talk to us about an issue. Right. I mean, they kicked us under the table more times than you can count. Right. And from my standpoint, I stood down there at the Capitol and helped them help Dunwoody become a city by standing over in the corner and waving when they asked me to. So I can tell you our relationship with the county has changed since Dunwoody and Brookhaven are part of it. So they know now, and I'll compare you with Gwinnett County. Gwinnett County is good. They have 20 cities up there, 19 I think it is. They make up less of the percentage of the population than we do with 10 cities in DeKalb County. But they have a higher percentage of people that vote, the same way that we do here. Mm-hmm. Now, they have an organization very similar to ours up there. Matter of fact, our relationship is patterned after what they do up there. And it is a situation where they just, if they sit down, if you start sitting down talking about stuff, you work things out. And you just have to get into an environment where you get to the place of where you do that. DeKalb County is extremely difficult to deal with, even today. Extremely difficult to deal with. And a lot of that has to do with the line between North and South DeKalb County. A lot of it has to do with race. A lot of it has to do with several other issues that are going on in this county today. Right. So there are a lot of things going on. And you ready for me to quit?
No, I'm just I'm waiting to the next. Go ahead. Sorry.
But I'm hopeful if you all would become a participant and Tucker will become a participant, that we can cut the rate down. We don't need, if we have 200,000 people, mm-hmm. we don't need $200,000 to do what we do and what we need to do. We may need 50 cents a person. So instead of $50,000, maybe $25,000 or $30,000 is what we would be asking you to pay. I'm not paid enough for what I do. I can tell you that. At least that's my opinion. Okay. And if you had to go down and deal with DeKalb County every day, you would say the same thing. I can promise you that. Yeah. They just, I have watched their commission and I still can't figure out how they operate down there. I just don't get it. They have these committees of the whole and they have their commission meetings and they shift things around, and then they have this day where they have all these other committee meetings, and you never know what's going on. They'll move stuff all over the place, and it's really difficult to keep up with what they're doing.
John, do you have a question?
No, I don't have a question.
Lindley, do you have another question?
No, it's just difficult to explain to our citizens why we have to pay a significant sum of money to have good communication with our county when we have county elected representatives and city elected officials who should be able to handle that without the necessity of the organization. And I'm sure that you too wish that was the case and that DMA was not necessary because relations were so good.
It would be a different life, I can tell you that. And I could tell you about the host negotiations. I could tell you the reason you get your money from the Revenue Department and not DeKalb County and how we went through that. The city of Decatur, when I was mayor, we spent $1.5 million on a lawsuit suing DeKalb County over the host because they had the money and they just wouldn't give it to us. And that's a shame that's that way, but that's the reason. That's the culture that's developed that we are trying hard now to overcome.
Gary, can you talk about, your dealings with DMA so far and your kind of role and especially at SPLOS and service delivery issues?
I've been to probably 3 or 4 meetings. Bill's been at the meetings, and he's represented everyone very well at the meetings. Not afraid to speak up and speak his piece or whatever. I think the mayor went with me the last meeting we were at, and we had a very fruitful meeting after that also. So Bill just does a lot of work representing all the cities, and he gets everyone together.
Bill, if we come in, you guys have budgeted $122,000 already. We come in, we drop, I guess, we're already in February or March this year, so our prorated portion of the year. Are you guys based on a year or fiscal year? How do you base that on?
Well, I would, we have a few cities that pay monthly. They pay 1/12 for the month. So,
Gotcha.
You can pretty much,
So I guess the question is, what are you going to, what is DMA going to use the increased revenues for? What would be the new things that DMA would be able to do?
It would, for this year, it'd probably just go into some sort of reserve. And I would hope that if you all join, that we at some time later this year would make some decision about what the rate ought to be for next year and how that ought to impact us. And we'd have Tucker there with us at the same time, trying to figure out what that rate ought to be. And we probably need about $125,000 for what we do. And, maybe we can work ourselves out of a job. We really, quite honestly, we need for you all to be at the table. It's that simple. You all are a big part of this county. And when we sit down and deal with people, and deal with issues, we need for somebody from Brookhaven to be at the table. And we've missed that. So,
and talk about the service area negotiations. I know that you're basically handling all that for the cities, like as a template, basically, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, we have been handling the arrangements with the county, so to speak, and we've had several group meetings, if you will. The county will meet with every city individually because each city has to make their own arrangement with the county. So you have an agreement now. You've signed a service delivery, haven't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like new cities, when they come in the first couple of years, they don't have to do it. It's delayed, and then at some point in time.
But we're in a countywide. Are we not in a countywide rehash of that service delivery?
Yes,
for the whole,
that's a requirement of the.
So we're, in a sense, the entire cities are all in kind of negotiations, and you're kind of leading that effort for the cities, for at least the general parameters where everyone's going with.
And the things that we deal with are, when we negotiated on service delivery 6 or 7 years ago, when Burl Ellis was still there, we are still under. We still pay a lot of taxes to the county for which we get no services from the county. So we divided it into those 5 categories where we could opt in or opt out. And so what we're doing is renegotiating that arrangement, but also what they've done with us over those is shift money around in their budget from one of those pockets from the fire to the general fund and those kind of things. And if you've watched them, they've stood up there. My county taxes went up 25% one year when the CEO stood up there and said, there's no tax increase.
Right.
Well, there was no tax increase in unincorporated DeKalb County. But you all experienced a tax increase. I experienced a tax increase. So that's the kind of thing that we are struggling right now to deal with in some way that we got to figure out a way to prevent, if we can, prevent them from doing that.
How many cities are there in DeKalb?
If you count Atlanta, there are 11 with Tucker.
And how many members do you have in DMA?
Well, everybody, we don't even invite Atlanta. We don't even want them. So I don't bring up that we even have a DeKalb Municipal Association when I'm around them. But you're the only one that is not a member now.
Mayor, if I could, the service delivery strategy that Bill was talking about, that's very important. That's going on, and actually Bill brought up a couple good points, and I think Lee May brought them up too. They're actually separating some of those deliveries that we're actually going to be negotiating for. For instance, animal services is coming out of police, EMA I think is coming out of fire and things like that. So
We're getting benefits right now where we're not paying in.
It sounds like we're getting a free ride to me.
Well, I know it's a lot of money. I mean, I understand that. When I sat down with Marie Garrett, and maybe that's a name you don't mention here, but I sat down with her several years ago. She said, well, it's a police officer, you know, and I understand that. I understand the significance is. For Decatur, it's $25,000. Well, for Decatur, that's a lot of money. But if you want to talk to somebody that'll justify it, Peggy Marius, who's been our city manager for 20-something years, she will justify it to you in a heartbeat. It was really her idea. I mean, that's one of those things I take credit for, but it was her idea about having somebody to do this, to watch it. So, I mean, I don't want to make light of the money, because it is a big, I'm asking you to do a lot. But I believe if you all will come with us and sit at the table with us, and let us have your participation and your voice, we will make things happen in DeKalb County that haven't happened before. I think it's that biggest step.
You know, I will summarize it by saying, to me, it's the value proposition. You know, how do I justify that $50,000? You know, if we go and hire a lobbyist, I know I can get a heck of a lot of lobbyist work for $50,000 at the state or with the DeKalb elected officials, and you know it is 10 cities with by far the lion's share being borne by Dunwoody and Brookhaven, and you know it's hard that is hard for me to justify, and I know that you're basing it on a per citizen basis, but the reality is each of these cities is benefiting relatively equally on issues that are being addressed by the incorporated areas. You know, and then we've got cities like Greenhaven, which may or may not happen. You know, that's 300,000 people down there. I mean, that would certainly that would be a big bump for the DMA budget, but it would also essentially municipalize most of the county. And I think that's what's happened over in Fulton County is that they essentially don't really, I don't know that they have a Fulton County Municipal Association.
North Fulton.
They have a North Fulton Municipal Association.
I don't know that they hire anybody.
Yeah, right, and I think, but it's, and that, in principle, I am 100% behind the idea of DMA as an organization getting together and representing the interests of the municipalities. It's having that expense and having it borne by essentially 2 big cities is the hard part for me to swallow. But I like the dialogue.
I can't argue. I can just tell you this from a standpoint of Pine Lake, which has about 800 people. Mm-hmm. That is an enormous check for them to write.
Right.
And it's probably a lot harder for them to write the check than it is for you all. But $50,000 is a lot of money, and you have to be able to, I don't have any problem justifying to the people in my city why it's paid. It benefits everybody. If we stand together, it benefits everybody in this county, if the cities in this county stand together. But I've sat where you sat, I understand what you're asking, and I can't. I mean, that's something you got to decide with yourself, really, as to whether you think it's worth the money or not.
So it's basically right around like $4,100 a month, roughly, something along those lines, right?
I can't do that math quick, but.
Yeah,
52 grand.
yeah. Yeah, 41,666. John, Lindley, anything else? Okay. Bill, we'll take it under advisement and get back to you.
All right, thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. It's good to see you.
Okay, upcoming agenda items. Rick,